Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast or media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Luckyeevee, Stryker, Shark, Jordan, and Mathmachine. Today is our 77th episode, and we're continuing Jurassic July. We're discussing the 2012 Dinosaur Train episode, the Earthquake/Nursery Car, to continue our second ever Jurassic July. So, let's get things started.
Once upon a time, there was a mom. The name was Mrs. Pteranodon. Sitting on a nest, she heard a hatch and then said, "Oh boy, my eggs are hatching." Yep. To think this began as a freaking book from 2002 of all things.
Yep. Yep, that's where this actually got started, the whole idea of a dinosaur train. The actual show itself that we're discussing was a preschooler show created by Jim Henson Productions that actually had the Hensons producing, interestingly enough, and more relevant to our interests, it was created by Craig Bartlett, who is the creator of Hey Arnold, and who, interestingly enough, is actually the cousin, I believe, through marriage of Matt Groening from The Simpsons. Groening, rather.
Well, dang.
Yep.
I mean,
Are you sure?
No,
I'm pretty sure.
Like show or something like that, the Truman Show or something like that.
Nice. But no, like I said, this show again, it's made by Craig Bartlett, the creator of Hey Arnold, and you can kind of tell because, like that show, this show has really such great world building, and it feels so alive. It's a completely different show for a completely different type of audience, but you could really feel the type of care that really went into it. The only thing that this show did need was a cameo appearance by Mr. Egg Cream. That would have made the whole show worth it.
Yeah, we got Scott the paleontologist. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me.
Sorry, was it?
Well, where will Mr. Egg Cream get the eggs in this world?
Oh, yes, you're right. Better not to ask that question.
Oh,
Better not to ask that question. So, no, sorry, Mr. Egg Cream cannot be a part of this, even though it would be awesome.
That's
thing
hard.
I've noticed about Bartlett is that unlike a lot of creative directors who make characters first and then fit them into a world, he seems to make these worlds first and figure out, okay, how do I design this character so that they fit in this kind of world that I'm making? Like with Hey Arnold, it was just slightly exaggerated New York or Chicago or other big city. And here it's this whimsical fantasy dinosaur land. You can go into any episode of either Hey Arnold or this, and you know exactly what's going on from just that episode. You don't
More
need
or
any
less,
other
yeah.
context.
Like they're all
Exactly.
more or less brought in closely together. They're not. There's no gradual overarching thing. It's just new characters coming in, doing their thing, and going. Like it honestly kind of should be.
Yeah, and it works out so well, too, because it means that you don't have to go through a whole bunch of lore or anything like that. You can just sit down and watch it and really enjoy it. And it
Yeah,
turns out,
there's not too much lore you really need to go back and watch. Like 1 or 2 episodes at most for a specific character for an episode, but that's about it.
Yeah, nowadays almost every cartoon you have to watch in order. Like, something it's very important happened 2 seasons ago, but if you didn't watch it, you're not gonna understand what's happening right now. And
Yeah, stuff like Dungeons and Dragons and allegedly Dragon Prince, and to an extent, some of the MCU shows definitely have this problem. But
And the MCU
yeah, thankfully,
movies.
Dinosaur Train doesn't have this problem.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an educational show, and those don't have a
Yeah.
lot of continuity.
You don't
Yeah.
need to take those
So-
too
so-
seriously, even though the producers might as well. You know?
Yep.
Also, once again, educational television.
Oh, no!
Oh, God.
Classic.
Don't worry, it's not as cringeworthy as it sounds.
No, this is one of the few that are really fun. And the show
Yeah.
begins with the theme song, which Angron thankfully gave us a little snippet of in the opening. That really is better than it should be.
Yeah.
You know, it actually is really catchy. It has
Yeah.
like, this whole cool country twang to it, and it works out really well. It reveals the story behind the show with Mrs. Pteranodon finding Buddy, a T-Rex, in her nest, and she adopts him as they travel through the titular time-traveling dinosaur train, which just the concept alone of dinosaurs having a time-traveling train, that's something like, it feels like it's a type of show that should have been invented like 50, 60 years ago, because kids like dinosaurs, they like trains, they like stuff like time travel and that. How the hell did this not exist until like until the 2010s?
Yeah, like seriously, this is like on. Oh yeah, it's also funny because like this reminds me of Back to the Future 3, where freaking Doc makes a freaking time traveling train.
Oh yeah,
which
he did.
makes me think that there might be some shenanigans involving him and the Mesozoic. If you catch my drift.
It would not surprise me if he did that, because the last time we talked about Doc Brown going back to the prehistoric times, he created a whole civilization of dinosaurs. Who's to say he didn't accidentally do that again?
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this show is that the voice group, pretty much all the voice actors are from the famous Ocean Group, which means you're going to hear a lot of familiar voices in this show, which includes the first character we see of the show, the conductor of the dinosaur train. He has kind of a goofy, I guess almost like Don Knotts, Jimmy Stewart type of voice.
He kind of sounds, like Minnesotan in a way, or something like that. And he kind of also reminds me of Professor Peasley or Beakley from freaking Lilo and Stitch.
I can definitely hear that in his performance, yeah. But what is really crazy is that because of the Ocean Group dubbing so many things, this dinosaur conductor has the same voice as Goku from Dragon Ball Z.
Life has many daughters, Ed boy. No, it's not.
Shawn
Michael.
And he was also Rolf. Yep.
Oh God.
Yep. So Rolf is Goku and is also a time traveling dinosaur.
No. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh boy! Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Seeing Life Has Many Doors, Ed boy, and just immediately going Ultra Instinct and like traveling back through time. Just oh my gosh! Like so many 3 references all going through my head, and it's just so hilarious.
It's too good. It's too.
Well,
I
guess Rolf was the one opening the time portals when he opened the doors. Yes.
Classic.
Oh gosh!
I'd like to remind everyone we're nerds here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You gotta expect it on this podcast, unfortunately. But getting back to the episode itself, the first half of the episode begins with the train chugging down the tracks as usual, and it turns out that the Pterodon family is going with Tank Triceratops to go back and meet one of their ancestors, and one of the dinosaur children, Tiny Pterodon, she has the exact same voice as Sweetie Belle from Friendship is Magic, which just makes you think that Rarity turned Sweetie Belle into a dinosaur.
Yeah.
It's crazy if Rarity actually pulled that off, but what's even crazier is the fact that I hear this and I'm reminded that her voice actress and Black Griffin are like a thing. Last I checked.
Okay, that is well then.
Or like at the very least friends. Don't quote me on that, but
wow.
Yeah, I forget if they're friends or like legit a couple. I don't know, but good lordy, I'm reminded of that every time I hear Sweetie Belle's voice on Tiny as well.
Ooh.
I'm quoting Angron on this one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Well then. But anyway, getting back to the episode itself, it turns out that Tank's ancestor is Penelope Protoceratops, which is a dinosaur that does not have horns, but a similar-looking head frill. And this show goes way beyond what you'd think a preschooler show would do at paleontology. These guys go in depth to like every single species of dinosaur you can think of was represented on this show. Like the most
not just dinosaurs either. Like natural phenomena, like earthquakes, hurricanes, migration. They go hard.
They even went into like trilobites in that, believe it or not.
Yeah, and also mammals, and even in like the final episode of the series, they legit went to the freaking Ice Age. that could have been wild if they continued and they decided to explore the Ice Age. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sadly, that we did not get to see them meet Sid, Manny, and Diego. Very unfortunate that
Or Mama
crossover never
T-Rex.
happened. But
or Buckweister.
yeah, that too.
Insert mandatory. Do you know what killed the dinosaurs?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
killed the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Or at the very
And
least,
I believe that is the third or fourth time we've made that joke on this podcast. For those of you keeping
yep,
score,
on this month.
this month too.
Well, thankfully, at least they never come across Ukhtar.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness there's no Ukhtar. Unfortunately, we did not get to see them meet Eegah, because that would have been interesting. But
Oh,
enough
boy.
jokes about
Yeah.
cavemen. Enough jokes about cavemen. Back to the episode.
Yeah.
The kids themselves wonder why Penelope Protoceratops has no horns, and they ask Tank what he uses his horns for. Buddy brings up that Penelope Protoceratops did not have any predators where she lived, and thus didn't need the horns. The conductor says that Penelope Protoceratops lived in the desert, and Tank thinks he says dessert, which Tank's pretty much entire character traits is he likes to eat. That's it. You know, it's not very
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah, I
Every
mean,
show needs that. I'm the fat kid.
Yeah.
that's sometimes not a bad thing. I mean, we got freaking Mammoth Mutt, and she's not just like the
Yeah.
expansion person, but she's
Or even
freaking smart.
or even to
Yeah,
take
that's
it from Craig
that's a
Bartlett,
joke
like Harold
that
from
gets
Hey
old
Arnold.
really fast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
but
like fat kids
yeah.
can be dynamic. Don't forget that.
This time they didn't. But yeah, like Shark said, it's a joke that's like one joke, and it gets old really fast. Thankfully, this is only an 11-minute segment. I don't hammer it down too much, but it does get somewhat repetitive. So it turns out that the desert that Penelope Protoceratops lives in has earthquakes, which makes Shiny afraid of going there. And Mrs. Pterodon tries telling Shiny that earthquakes don't happen that often. And it's here we're going to talk about her just a little bit, a tiny tangent. Mrs. Pterodon has a really nice design. Really, all of them they look pretty good for 2012, 2010's CGI, especially at this time, because there were shows made around the same era that did not look so good. And fun fact, she has the same voice actress as the Maniac, also from Friendship is Magic.
Wait, really?
Interesting.
Yep, same voice actress.
Apparently.
Nice.
But as Mrs. Pterodon is trying to tell Shiny that earthquakes don't happen that often, the conductor tells her the opposite. And it's here we get one of the moments that actually got a pretty good laugh out of me. This show isn't a laugh riot because it's more of an educational thing, but occasionally they slip in a good one. And the first one here was just completely unamused look that Mrs. Pterodon shoots him. It's just like, it's such a great facial expression. It's hard to describe, but it's one that actually did get a good laugh out of me.
Yeah, wait, repeat the joke.
It's not a joke. It's really just the expression Mrs. Pterodon gives the conductor after he tells her that earthquakes happen all the time.
Oh yeah,
really
right. Yeah, good lord. Yeah, I'm trying not to traumatize my kid here. Like maybe work with me here, Mr. C. Otherwise, you're not getting the bedroom or whatever. Anyway.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting take on it.
Yeah, it's not even like so. There are a lot of those particular flirty moments in this show. They're very well disguised, but if you know where to look, you'll know. Don't worry.
Yeah, of course.
I'd more call them just friendly moments in general, because that seems to be what this show is going for. Is that just everyone is really nice and friendly with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep. But anyway, what happens is that due to Mrs. Pterodon's basically angry face, the conductor tries to backpedal and tries telling Shiny that earthquakes happen deep down, but of course she's still scared. But then we get, like, again, a nice little lesson for the kids in that. Mrs. Pterodon tells Shiny to listen to adults in emergency, with the conductor telling them to don't run and get away from anything that could fall on top of them, which is legitimately good advice. And it's her gag that actually got a nice little laugh out of me. Shiny says something like, I don't like the sound of it. And one of the other Pterodons says, well, I do. It goes like woo, 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 like that. That's actually a joke that, again, it feels like something that was meant for a more adult show in that, more older show, rather, I should say. But yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. But the dinosaurs are curious about earthquakes in general, as the conductor tells them how they work by showing them various diagrams of plate tectonics. Which all this talk about plate tectonics and underground tremors and that, I'm watching this and I'm thinking I haven't heard this much exposition about underground earthquakes since the movie The Mole People. Which, if you haven't seen it, that's a Universal horror movie. It opens even before the opening credits with like 5 minutes of a scientist giving a lecture about like how plate tectonics work and that, and then about the hollow Earth theory. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Horror
They
movies
actually,
can be educational too, huh?
Yeah,
absolutely.
that one can
Oh,
at
yeah.
least. But what happens is now the train goes to the time tunnel, which is a pretty simple but also a pretty cool effect. And seeing as this is the prehistoric time, it's pretty good that Irwin Allen wasn't there to sue them over stealing the time tunnel.
I'm going to transport it back in time. That boy's stuck in time. Yeah.
To get dinosaurs off the menu.
Yeah.
Oh god, we're going back in time to the first Thanksgiving. Get dinosaurs off the menu. Well, birds technically are the descendants of dinosaurs, so in a way,
Good point.
yeah.
Works.
Pretty accurate.
Yep. But the group gets off the train as they're busy wandering through this featureless desert. Tank is curious as to what food Penelope would have. Again, single joke here. But Tiny points out that they're in a desert and they have extremely few plants. The group then see a shadow looming over them that turns out to be Penelope. She has the exact same voice actress, believe it or not, as Gilda Griffin from Friendship is Magic, which,
Interesting.
yep.
Great
Interesting,
MLP reunion. At least of
Yep.
voice.
Hey.
Yep, at least of Sweetie Belle and Sweetie Belle, Gilda, and the Maniac.
Mm.
Yep, so got those three together. But it turns out that the group are frightened of her frill as she tells them that she uses basically she uses the frill not to ward off predators because they're in a desert, there are no predators. They basically use it to tell other protoceratops that she's around, which leads to something very interesting a moment here, which is that Penelope knows what a Triceratops is, even though technically she is the ancestor to Triceratops. So
I've got a lot of
thanks a lot,
visitors.
Dinosaur Train. Now you start a time paradox.
Well, I mean, it's a very light time paradox since, like,
Yep.
she knows about them, but like she's ultimately like, that's cool. Anyways, yeah, she's
Yep,
like she's aware of
exactly.
them and likes to visit them, but she's like, that's cool.
Yep.
Time travel.
but-
You don't have to explain anything with time travel.
Yep.
Yep. Still a better use of still a more logical use of time travel than Avengers Endgame.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh man, there's also multiverse theory, but we're already deep enough as it is.
Exactly. But Penelope then asks Tank what he uses his horns for, and he tells her that he uses it for wrestling other Triceratops. So I guess all those movies that had the two stop motion Triceratops are basically smashed against each other were right all along. So I guess that means the original Lost World was correct after all. Surprising.
Yeah.
But basically, of course, one joke, he gets hungry. She shows him that she eats shrubs and bushes, much like he does. And then, of course, we get to the titular earthquake of the episode, as in a really cute touch that I liked what they did, all of the pterodons chirp like they're actually birds, which, again, really cute little touch there. They didn't have to
they're
do
more
it, but I'm kinda
bird-like
glad they
than the
did.
freaking dinosaurs, more or less. I mean, they got the beaks and whatnot, but come on now.
Yep, exactly. No feathers. But the dinosaurs remember what to do, as Penelope and Mrs. Pterodon are proud of them for not panicking during an earthquake. Buddy notices the ground being raised up more than it was after the earthquake stops after like 30 seconds. Don mentions that Buddy has good eyesight, which, Buddy being a T-Rex, this can only mean one thing. Dr. Alan Grant was wrong. Dinosaurs can see you. Yep. So
I mean,
whenever we'll have
there was
that.
an earthquake, so technically everything was moving. So
True. Maybe we'll see more of that in Jurassic World 4 when that eventually comes out.
Oh boy.
God help us all.
Yep. But for now, we'll talk about something much nicer, as the pterodons want to see it, but Mrs. Pterodon tells them that the train will be back soon and that tank is just too big for them to carry. He decides to stay behind with Penelope while the pterodon family fly over to see the shifted ground. And they're really amazed at how earthquakes work, which again is a really good way to get children to introduce this kind of concept, as Mrs. Pterodon tells them how all the different layers of rock are still visible, and that they're so amazed that this tiny bit of earth that basically was raised from the earthquake is going to become a mountain. And kind of a little missed opportunity they had. They could have gone back to the future, haha, and actually seen the mountain as like a full gigantic mountain over the course of like millions of years or that, but whatever. But again, it's a really good way to get kids interested in stuff that really they wouldn't, because there's dozens of kids shows out there that teaches like, reading or spelling or, like good morals or that. But this one teaches them about like science and really paleontology, and it's interesting,
And fear and like tackling fears and also social skills. Like this is kind of a jack of all trades, more or less.
What I really liked, and you can tell from this episode alone, is that they don't talk down to the audience either. They do this in such a way that they expect that you will be able to understand this, and they talk to you like you are an intelligent child. You're still a child, obviously, but that you understand concepts, that you can get context clues, that you will be able to grow and learn watching this rather than have to repeat the same 5 words 20 different times.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That is the best way to put it right there. But what happens is the train eventually comes back. They tell both the tank and the conductor about the earthquake and seeing the mountain, the preformed mountain. Shiny mentions that she was afraid but got over it, as Miss Pterodon mentions how proud she is of her. And this half of the episode ends with the dinosaurs saying their goodbye to Penelope as they hop off the train. And then we get something that I actually did not expect in this show. We get like a live action portion where they talk to Dr. Scott, who is apparently a real paleontologist, who talks not only about Protoceratops, but also about Utah Ceratops, which is a dinosaur that this guy actually discovered, which that brings badass points right there. You discover a new species of dinosaur.
Absolutely. He also found one in Madagascar, which got his acclaim to fame, more or less.
Yep. But like I say, it's interesting that they...
It is kind of morbid that basically that live action segment started with, "Hi kids, this is the corpse of the dinosaur you just met."
Exactly. Yeah, wow. I was just about to say that. It is kind of weird because what happens is he takes a Protoceratops skull and he compares it to a Utah Ceratops, with the former being much smaller than the latter, then brings up similarities like the head frills. But again, for like the preschoolers that are watching this, there's like no segue into it. Like Shark said, it's literally just like, hey kids, here's the skeletons of the dinosaurs. They're all dead, which, I mean, granted it's realistic, but could be a little more tactful,
A little bit, yeah.
There's no segue.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a pretty nice break from the animation while still being stimulating, and you can tell this guy actually has a really natural charisma in front of the camera, which a lot of times when you get guys like scientists and that trying to do television, it's very stiff and awkward. Even
all
like
scientists are naturally introverts.
Yeah, even like Walt Disney's anthology show had like some of the scientific experts that came off as being so stiff and like uncomfortable, which not here though. This guy seems pretty natural, and again, it helps that I think with the kids too, to have actually like an expert come onto the show like that.
Yep.
And after this segment, we get a very short teaser for the next half of the episode as the conductor tells us what it's going to be about, which is the nursery car. The second half begins with the family at station, which reveals that Mrs. Pterodon has a Mr. Pterodon, which I was not expecting that. I actually did not know that going in. Apparently,
I think that he was revealed at the title. I could be wrong, but he was established. Very much
so. Robot Chicken lied to us.
Yep, they did. They did lie to us. They did, because they said that she was a single mom, but she's not. So Yep, they got it wrong again, as usual.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at their Homestar Runner parody if you want to see how wrong they can get things.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's meant to be a parody, so they won't
True,
get any
true.
most of the facts right.
True,
Yeah.
true. But it turns out that Dawn is impatient to see the train as Buddy and Tiny wonder what the new boxcar is going to be. It turns out that it's going to be a nursery car that is filled with eggs, and of course the dinosaur parents cooing over them. As the family gets on the train, we see that the passenger car is filled with parents for the inaugural trip of the nursery car. It's a really nice touch where it's a very subtle detail, but it's cute. The windows look like dinosaur eggs, which, again, cute little design there. They didn't have to put that in, but I'm kind of glad they did. Tiny asks where the conductor's mom is, causing her to just show up from behind him. And this character is probably, for me, the best character, at least in the episode, that's not Mrs. Pterodon. Because, I'm sorry, she was legitimately funny. Like, her voice sounds like an impression of someone. I can't put my finger on who, but it is hilarious. And just the way she acts with the voice and even the movements, they actually made this character really funny. And I give them credit where credit is due.
Yeah,
really
she very
pulled it
much
off.
sounds like if Mr. Conductor kind of sounded a little Minnesotan, she absolutely sounded a little Minnesotan, but also she also reminds me of that one pony from that one MLP Gen 4 episode that where that pony's going like touring, more like boring.
Oh, right. Yeah, the episode
Yeah.
with the equestrian games. I remember that one. It does
Yeah.
definitely.
Or at the very least, the one where Celestia and Luna pretty much are like swapping places, and it's Starlight trying to do the friendship problem instead of like one of the main six.
Ooh, that is true. Another good point there.
Yep.
So,
The way that I would describe the conductor's mother is, for as much as we said that the conductor himself sounds like Don Knotts, particularly Barney Fife from the Andy Griffith Show, she acts like Don Knotts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
except
true.
kookier. She's a kookier Don Knotts than Don Knotts.
Yep. If only we got to see her and Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Then we would have had a legendary thing.
Oh God.
But as the train continues to travel, an aftershock shakes the car as Dawn thinks it's the eggs hatching. It turns out that we actually get a connection to the previous episode, which I'm surprised because, especially this kind of show, you think it'd all be a standalone thing, but no. Because Mr. Conductor actually says that because of the earthquake that happened, it wasn't too long ago, and there still is the effects of aftershocks. And to the credit, Shiny is still somewhat scared of it.
Yeah,
So,
she.
again,
Yeah,
pretty
that's
decent continuity
definitely.
for a show like this.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Like honestly, like not every double episode does this, where there's like a double theme, like there's an overall theme between the two episodes. But it's honestly very like when it happens, it's absolutely clever and it's absolutely something special.
Yeah, like we discussed earlier, you don't actually have to watch the previous episode to get it. It works as a gun on its own.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it is nice too that they also did a connection like that. Yep. So anyway, what happens next is that this aftershock also causes several of the other dinosaur females to panic. Tiny, Buddy, and Mrs. Pterodon actually want to see the nursery car, while Shiny, Dawn, and Mr. Pterodon stay behind. Mr. Pterodon says that he has a secret surprise for his wife, but he plays it off as getting a fish snack. The three other members of the family go into the nursery car as Mrs. Pterodon coos over how cute the eggs are, and it's not a little cute design touch because the thing is filled with gas lamps, like old style, type of gas lamps you'd find in old steamships and old trains and that, but they look like dinosaur eggs, which again, someone, actually took a couple of seconds to actually think, hey, what would a train made by dinosaurs actually look like? And they did a pretty good job.
Absolutely. Yeah, like there's like I said, this was like much later, like after like the first or second season or so, and honestly, them doing this much attention here and it getting mentioned like that, that's pretty impressive, and I gotta give props to Henson for that.
Oh, definitely. They always were the guys that really put a lot of attention to detail. Sadly, and very unfortunately, even though it would have been awesome and they could have done it because they produced it, we did not get a crossover between Dinosaur Train and dinosaurs.
Oh,
I want to see what nonsense baby Sinclair would have gotten up to.
Oh God, that little you keep that little masochist away from the. You keep that little masochist away from the dinosaur train. Yeah, keep the sicko away from the train.
Yeah. But Tiny doesn't get why the eggs are so cute as we see the various dinosaur parents cooing over them. One of the dinosaurs in the nursery car is a pair of velociraptors, which, number one, apparently this is how they learned to open doors in Jurassic Park. They did it on the dinosaur train all the time. They just had like the instinct to do it. And number two, they actually are scientifically accurate. They gave him feathers, which,
Yep.
a
Yep,
lot
yep,
of stuff we talk about with dinosaurs, not just stuff made when they didn't know they had feathers, but even stuff made more recently, omit that. And it's very interesting that here is where they're really choosing to keep it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very impressive that they're keeping all the stuff here
And they're
and
being as
like
accurate as possible. I mean, they're not like with the, again, even with the color scheme in a way, because a lot of research has shown that some dinosaurs were more colorful than we thought. Like, they weren't just like,
absolutely.
grays and browns and, that we typically think of dinosaurs as. So again, I give a
Yeah.
lot of props. So go ahead.
That's an interesting thing I've noticed about the character design for the show in general. While having a sort of toony stylized way of animating their characters, they also
Henson.
do try to keep them as realistic to how the actual dinosaurs they're based off of looked.
Absolutely.
It works really well for this kind of edutainment property.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like I say, it's more accurate than I think 90% of the dinosaur-related things that we're going to talk about on this podcast, either before or in the future, which is very interesting.
Maybe, but you never know.
The dinosaur dads all stressing out about the impending hatching of the eggs, a really cute moment. And one of them, I swear, sounds exactly like Rick Moranis. I don't think it is him, but if it's someone doing a really, really good impression of him.
Yeah, that would be very impressive if it was.
If it was him, yeah. But if it's not, if someone doing an impression, it's a very, very good one. It's a whole, nervous, wreck type of character that, he was known to do. And it works out really well. It is funny. But we get to Mrs. Pterodon talking to another female dinosaur who's worried about what will happen with her eggs. And in another cute moment, she just won't stop expressing her various worries as Mrs. Pterodon tries to get a word in edgewise. In another cute moment, especially with Mrs. Pterodon's like a rueful chuckle at that, like, "Oh, you'll learn,
Yeah, you're talking to an experienced mom over here. She knows what she's saying.
And again, they did more character than they really had to for this kind of show.
Agreed, yeah.
Definitely. So the kids themselves want to go closer to the eggs as the moms basically tentatively agree. Tony and Buddy are curious to see which egg goes with which mom as they sort it out by color and by shape and such like that. And it is interesting, like I say, because as we'll find out in a little while with the paleontologist section, there's a lot of things with dinosaur eggs that we don't know about. So a lot of this is guesswork. And it's a way, I think, for kids to find out, like, basically, like, matching patterns and such like that, while still, again, keeping it with the whole paleontology theme.
Again, jack of all trades.
Yep.
It's nice that, like you say, they actually looks like dinosaur eggs. It's not like, oh, the red eggs go in the red basket. Oh, the green dotted eggs go in
Yeah,
Exactly,
there's
do that.
actually more complicated stuff on that.
Yeah, they make
Exactly.
it challenging for the kids here.
Exactly. And again, it's one of those shows that, well, basically like everything Henson did, it doesn't talk down to kids, It treats them at their level. It's like saying, hey, you're not stupid. We're not going to, treat you like you're, like you don't know anything. We're going to sit down and talk to you at your level eye to eye. And that's what the Hensons do best. And, when they do stuff like this, that's why it turns out better than 99.9% of other TV that is meant for this kind of age group.
Yep, absolutely.
But it
I also
turns out
really enjoyed that during the discussion of this, that they did say that there's a lot of hypothesis work and all of this kind of stuff with trying to figure out the eggs. They're really heavily implying to the kids, hey, look, even we adults don't know this stuff very well, so
Indeed,
we're just doing our best with this. Not many shows would actually be like, yeah, even we adults don't know this stuff. We're trying to.
Exactly right. Yep. But then we, while they're doing this, another aftershock occurs. Some of the mothers worry about this. We then cut to the passenger car where Dawn and Shiny are loving and hating the aftershocks respectfully. The nervous, basically Rick Moranis dinosaur, I'm going to call him for now because he does not have a name and I can't tell what species he is. He's also nervous about the...
Oh, you mean the nervous dinosaur dad that's pacing back and forth and is in uniform? He's a Troodon.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, the Troodon, thank you so much for that. He's also nervous about the aftershocks as he returns back to the nursery car. The rest of the family also go to the car as well. Dawn and Buddy are curious how the eggs react to the aftershock and if the babies can breathe inside the eggs. And Tiny also wonders if they're strong enough to withstand the shocks. The conductor says that they're both right, and then we actually get another little bit of edutainment here as he shows the pores in all of the eggs, which, again, is another really fun bit of edutainment. And, again, it's scientifically accurate. It's not doing it like, basically like, like we'd find bird eggs or that. It actually depicts them as accurate as we could know from basically paleontology today.
Absolutely. Fun fact, we've actually seen like the inside of a fossilized dinosaur egg, and we've seen an actual dinosaur, so we're on the right track here for the most part.
Let's just hope nobody tries to clone them.
That will probably end poorly, and they've probably tried. It probably went south. Nothing happened. Yeah.
Nature,
every time
life finds a way.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love cloning dinosaurs.
Oh, hey there, young people. You want me to clone dinosaurs?
Hey there, young people. Nice day today.
Yeah, I know.
Classic. But yeah, getting back to it, the eggs slowly begin to shake and hatch, which causes the nervous dinosaur to faint in the arms of Mr. Pterodon, who also lets out like a little chuckle, like "I've been there," which
yeah,
really
Mr. Pteranodon.
Yep. Even though we didn't get to see that in the opening credits, but stylization and all. As all the dinosaurs watch their eggs hatch in amazement and coo over them, Mr. Pterodon, Dawn, and Shiny creep back to the passenger car. It turns out they have mud on like a leaf, and they all put their footprints on it. Tiny and Buddy decide to compare the features of the babies to their parents, which, again, is a really fascinating bit of showing what the differences are between like the newly hatched dinosaurs and the adult ones, which a lot of it,
I would say Buddy has a comparing sort of like kink that's going on, but he's a kid, and it's just that's kind of his curiosity. That's kind of his thing. He likes to compare.
Yep, exactly. But what happens next is something that also surprised me, is that we get to see Laura Gigantosaurus, which is a dinosaur with a French accent, voiced by Kathleen Barr.
Latina accent.
Latina? That sounds more like French to me. It's interesting. Oh, right, because they were discovered. Right, doy. I'm sorry, that was my mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, she's voiced by Kathleen Barr, a.k.a. the great and powerful Trixie. So we got another My Little Pony voice actress right there.
Yep, another of the
she
ocean
peeks
dub.
her head in and obviously do portraits of the new parents with their hatchlings.
Yep, and she is a very talented painter and, by extent, a very far-looking dino, all things considered.
Yep.
She would absolutely fit the role of a sniper very well if given that particular timeline.
Yep. But we then cut to all the babies crying because, of course, they're newborns, as the family all decides to go back to the passenger car. When they arrive, they see the other family members surprise them. It turns out that what the mud did, they basically had it hardened to cement, as Tiny tells Mrs. Pterodon as a reminder when her children were that small. Buddy says that one day they'll be larger, but in a really heartwarming ending, Mrs. Pterodon tells them they'll always be her little babies. And again, it's a really cute moment,
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's very cute.
All of you are babies.
All of you are babies.
Thankfully, Heavy Weapons Guy was not back there. Although I think he would enjoy the Dinosaur Train.
Baby diaper?
I think he would enjoy the Dinosaur Train. Heavy would like it.
Actually, he does have a PhD, so.
Oh, that's true. The Heavy is more of a doctor than the medic because the medic lost his medical license.
That's true. That's very, very true.
Exactly.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yep.
Yeah,
now we get to the
subject.
actual show. Yeah, we get to the Dr. Scott segment of the episode as he talks about various dinosaur eggs, including showing off some actual Brachiosaurus eggs, an interesting thing. And it's also interesting, he shows eggs from dinosaurs that are completely unknown to science. Like, we
Dang.
don't know what breed these eggs belong to. We don't know what dinosaurs they are. We don't know, anything about them. So it just goes to show how much guesswork goes into something that takes place so long ago,
Dang, talk about mystery, am I right?
Yep.
That's something I did not realize going into this. Like, I knew there were like dinosaur eggs, but I did not know that like most of them were not like discovered dinosaur species, which is very interesting.
Exactly.
It is quite interesting, actually.
Indeed.
Kind of proving that even as adults, this science stuff is fascinating.
Yeah,
It is
it
very
is. It
interesting.
really is. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like,
absolutely.
unless it's adults probably would get a little more out of watching Walking with Dinosaurs compared to this, but this still is a really fun time, I think. It's a good introduction to dinosaurs for young children in general, and the
Yeah.
show itself was extremely successful. It lasted for over 12 years, and like Angron said, it ended with a movie that had Mr. Conductor going to rescue his father from the Ice Age. So,
Actually, the movie is basically
sorry?
Jurassic Park / Jurassic World done better, but the final
it is?
episode is a two-parter where Mr. Conductor does that.
Oh,
So
I did
yeah.
not know that.
Yeah,
Yep,
you're
I
definitely gonna
and
need to.
obligatory Mr. Freeze reference.
Yep.
Yep, we already did that, and we already made a reference to Jim Henson's sitcom Dinosaur, so that one's out too.
Yeah.
And we already made an Ice Age reference episode, so we can't do that one either.
So,
No.
I guess I
Okay.
was chosen today.
Exactly.
Yep, okay, we got that one.
Yeah. Doc Brown.
Yep,
Yeah. Good
yep,
time.
so we definitely got to see that. But like I said, this show really is a lot of fun. Like I say, going into it, I was expecting it to be cute, but not really special, memorable. But what I got, I actually was pleasantly surprised. I'm not saying this is like one of the greatest shows of all time. You've got to go drop everything and watch Dinosaur Train. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that Dinosaur Train is absolutely a show that is way better for its target audience than 99% of the shows with it. If you want to introduce like really young children to the concept of dinosaurs, it's probably the best thing you could show them, because I think like showing them some other stuff probably wouldn't work well.
Yeah, I
Like-
mean, to be fair, you have shows like Bluey, Dragon Tales, Cyber Chase, a bunch of shows that are definitely aimed toward a family audience, more or less smaller children, but also have enough smarts for adults to like, oh, hey, they did that. Wow. Yeah, it's very
Exactly.
much it's very much like that, and I definitely think that would be a lot of people's first introduction to dinosaurs, and in a very good way. And speaking of which, it's time for the question of the week, which is, what is our introduction to dinosaurs?
Yep, that's right. And I'll go first. That my first time seeing dinosaurs is probably something a little more Esther-roic than a lot of it, because my first time seeing dinosaurs was Fantasia, believe it or not. It was
Nice.
the Rite of Spring section of Fantasia, which is, to this day, it still is my favorite animated movie of all time. And, not to give too much spoilers, but we're going to get to Fantasia eventually, and it'll be
really?
very interesting when we do. Yep, we'll get to it
Dang.
one day.
Oh,
in the
hell
distant
yeah.
future.
I am
Yep.
looking forward to that.
But yeah,
Back to this.
but get to this. It was something that even as a little kid, it just fascinated me. I mean, I watched like the other Disney movies on like VHS. There's something about like Fantasia in general that's just like almost hypnotic, but a good sort of way. And
hell
I
yeah.
think
Oh,
too,
yeah.
what it is the Rite of Spring section is just one of the best. Really, it's hard for me to rank Fantasia by segments because it all just collages so well together. I can't say, oh, well, Rite of Spring is better than Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is better. I can't do that because it is all so good. But I think why the Rite of Spring worked is because, again, for 1940 or 41, I think, it is extremely accurate for the time period for the most part. There is a bit of a change why T-Rex has 2 fingers instead of 3. We'll get to that when we eventually do the episode. But as a whole, it was very risky and very controversial, believe it or not. Some some of the southern United States actually tried banning the movie because it did not show God creating the universe.
I mean, there was
that's
a scene in Fantasia where we see Chernobog, showing up coming out of his mountain,
Like-
and we see a couple of naked demon girls that were dancing in fire. Some people did not like that back in the day, but right now that's been more better. It's like, oh, you see Chernobog again coming out of his mountain,
Oh
showing,
yeah.
looming
But like
over
I
the
say-
village that he's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is my domain. You are all under my thumb. I have demons and ghosts flying all over the night. This is my night.
Exactly.
Until the sun comes up, he goes back into hiding and he waits for the next day. It's still
Exactly.
beautiful, and there is also a scene of a dinosaur, of a stegosaurus versus a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes, I was just about to
Oh,
mention.
hell
I was
yeah.
just about to mention the
Hell yeah.
the famous T-Rex versus Stegosaurus fight, which is absolutely just badass. It is so amazing. Like Fantasia is one of those things
It's
that
unforgettable.
it's like Roman concrete. It's like, how the hell did they do that back then?
Oh hell yeah.
Yep, and it
Absolutely.
really works out for the best. And like I say, it's one of those things that for me, it was my first introduction to dinosaurs, and it wasn't my first introduction, I think, to what I would become today, hosting this podcast. But
Yeah.
as it stands, it is really a great thing, and I'm glad that was my introduction. We'll talk way more in depth about this when we get to Fantasia, but that will not be for a very long time. But stay tuned for when it does happen. But yep, that's going to be my answer is Fantasia, the Rite of Spring. What is your answer going to be, Angron, for the first time you encountered dinosaurs?
In media, I'm gonna also have to say Fantasia, but in
Ooh.
general, that's a little bit more complicated because I was very, very young when I was introduced to dinosaurs. In fact, there is one place in particular that really got me like introduced fairly to dinosaurs. We got freaking dinosaurs from like there. I forget the specific place, but I know it was like in Atlanta, Georgia. There was a dinosaur museum that I visited where not only did I get to see a bunch of like dinosaur stuff and also listen to a song that absolutely stuck with me for the most part through my formative childhood years, but it's also where, interestingly enough, I got one of my first dinosaur stuffed animals, more or less. I forget if it's like a Brachiosaurus or Brontosaurus or whatever. It's a freaking. It was mine for a while. I of course named it Story because I was a stupid kid at the time, and
problem.
and it's still around to this day. It's definitely surpassed the test of time, more or less. There's a few moments where it's a little frayed, but he's still surprisingly going, despite being a toy that I got back like in 19 or like the early 2000s, more or less. It's very surprising that I was able to withstand that long, and that is going to be my answer, more or less.
Awesome. Yeah. Like I say, museums are always a really great place. Like pretty much every museum has at least one cool dinosaur-related thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yep.
Because
So-
this might be something that you weren't introduced by a show or movie.
Oh, it could be
It could
introduced by
something you saw on
in real
school
life too.
or a toy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Exactly. So, Stryker, what would you say would be your introduction to where you first saw dinosaurs?
Oh man, that's a toughie. For me, it was like just through reading books, actually.
Nice.
But
Nice.
I may have seen one or two dinosaurs in different cartoons when I was growing up.
Mm.
I don't remember what my first introduction to what my introduction was to dinosaurs. I just know that I read a lot of books growing up.
Nice.
Same. Let's say my one actually might be a bit of a changed answer. That I might have had some dinosaur books too, but then again, it was so long ago I don't remember it. But continue. Sorry about that.
Well, if we're talking about media, That's a tough one because there were so many I watched when I was growing up.
Mm.
Oh man,
I bet definitely we're not gonna say dinosaur because even though like we definitely didn't
it
like.
was not dinosaur. That
I
is
know.
like obvious
Knew
right
it.
there.
Yeah, shit.
But let's see. It definitely wasn't Fantasia because when I was growing up, I watched Fantasia 2000.
Nice, nice. That's a good one too. Nice
Yeah.
Miss Fantasia with still has its moments.
I still need to see the original Fantasia.
You haven't seen the original Fantasia?
No, not at all. I've only seen
Damn.
clips of it.
Oh, you
Wow.
definitely have got to see it. One of
I'm
these
looking
days.
forward to it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's
I've
a good
only
one.
heard good things about it.
It's
Yeah.
an
And they are very
experience.
much like.
It's
Let me put it to you
amazing.
this way.
You're really gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, let me put it to you this way. It was the origin of Hyacinth Hippo and a bunch of Disney
And a lot of
staples
other
to
good
this day.
stuff.
Oh, don't
too.
worry. I know about a lot of the origins, including one of the most racist characters in animation.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that
no,
eventually.
we're not going. We're not expanding on this.
Yeah.
I guess my first, my introduction to dinosaurs was from Rugrats.
Oh,
right.
yeah,
Reptar, yeah. He was
Yeah.
basically.
Mm.
Yep. He was a spoof of Godzilla, and one thing I
You-
loved about that with Reptar is how merchandised he was. You know, it was a running gag in the show that there was literally everything sold by Reptar.
I know. It was.
Yeah,
He's also voiced by a rapper, surprisingly.
In the
Yeah.
movie, Busta Rhymes.
Well,
Dang.
is he the
hold
one
on.
who sang on the Reptar on Ice episode? There's babies on the ice.
No, that was not him. He did it for Rugrats the movie. Then he became the voice after that, I believe.
I see.
Well, I just know. I think that was my introduction to dinosaurs, just Reptar, before actually getting into the real stuff from books.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a really good one. So, Math, what would you say is your introduction to dinosaurs in general?
Being the living fossil that I am, I just walked up to them and said hi.
Lucky bastard. Lucky
Oh,
bastard.
man.
I had to do it. I'm the old man of the group. What else am I supposed to
You're
say?
not wrong, but
but
hook a fucking
seriously,
brother up, man. Hook a brother up.
Sure.
So I did watch some media with dinosaurs before I really knew what dinosaurs were or realized what dinosaurs were, like Fantasia, Land Before Time, the Cheezosaurus Rex, if anyone remembers that mascot.
I remember
I
that
do.
hard.
No.
Hard.
So yeah, I remember those, but I always saw them as characters. I never quite grasped that they were dinosaurs. The first time I ever actually understood, oh, this is a dinosaur. Okay, I get it now. Was We're Back, a dinosaur story.
Oh, nice,
yeah.
nice. We
That still
previously.
goes on. That's still one of my favorite movies ever made. I'm not gonna.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, we
Really liked
previously
the
talked
movie,
about that.
and because they did mention about dinosaurs and coming back from that era, which is something that a lot of those other things didn't do, my like 4 or 5-year-old brain finally grasped, oh, okay, I get it now. That's what these creatures are.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Interesting, then.
Yeah.
It's weird that as a very young kid, you need to have that kind of thing explained, but it does help.
Oh, exactly,
Huh?
exactly. And
I get it.
yep. And like I said, We're Back, a Dinosaur Story is definitely a good introduction to them because that's definitely a unique movie, as you can see on the episode we did on it. A little bit of a plug there. Haha. But yeah, no, like I said, that's a really, really great choice right there. So, Shark, what would you say was your first introduction to dinosaurs?
Well, I mean, dinosaurs overall, I couldn't be able to tell. It could have been a toy. It could have been the dinosaur nuggets, wherever. So yeah, overall, I couldn't tell you. But I don't remember the very first piece of media with dinosaurs. I I watch, and I'm actually
Yep.
surprised nobody has brought it before.
What?
Let me just
Oh.
start with Yabba Dabba Doo.
Oh God!
No!
Granddad!
God.
Granddad!
Yeah.
If you don't tell me that you started off with freaking Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles, I
Yeah.
will shun you.
Well, that we
I
might
even
talk about that on
remember-
the podcast soon. Spoilers, but
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
did mention that, but and I even remember like the first quote unquote episode because I remember my family owned a VHS of the Flintstones Christmas Carol.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, they will obviously play it during Christmas time, and yeah, I remember the beats, I remember the characters, and of course, I remember the dinosaurs, and I basically saw this movie before seeing the actual show. So, if you want to be more literal, then my introduction to dinosaurs was Flintstones: A Christmas Carol, rather than the Flintstones themselves. But yeah, I remember, and I enjoyed it. I remember I haven't watched it in years, but I remember some beats like actors getting sick, so Vilma had to cover them up, and Fred Flintstone was Scrooge, and yeah, it was a fun time.
Cool.
And of course, there
Yeah.
was Dino and the whole
Yeah.
technology with the animals.
Yeah.
So
It's a fun show.
Yeah.
Thing that's
It's-
interesting. Sorry, go ahead, say.
No, continue.
Thing that's interesting with the Flintstones in general is a lot of people think that it's a children's show thanks to basically the show being marketed as one for the past like 40, 50 years. If you go back and watch it, it's a lot more adult than you think.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
yeah.
We're going to talk about this show on the podcast in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, a lot
Well,
of
well,
over martial
to
problems
them.
between Fred and Vilma.
Yeah. Well, infamously, it was basically the honeymooners. So much so that
Yep.
Jackie Gleason tried suing, but he was talked out of it by his lawyer, saying that killing the Flintstones would not be a good look for him. But the
Yep.
thing that the Flintstones had over the honeymooners is that the Flintstones could actually go to places. The honeymooners had like maybe 2 sets, like Ralph's apartment and
Yep.
like the street and the club, and that was it. Like 3 sets. The whole for like 56 episodes, it was the same 3 locations. So
Mhm.
thankfully, by being animation, Flintstones could do a lot
Yep.
more than it could with
Mhm.
a live-action sitcom. And eventually,
I mean-
it got its own identity. Like I say, it was a Honeymooners ripoff, probably for like the first season and a half. Then I think it kind of found its own groove after that. But
Indeed.
I mean, Flintstones was
Yeah, I mean-
originally supposed to be an adult show in the first place.
yeah, that's why they had the infamous cigarette commercials. Was
Yeah,
because it wasn't meant for
bring
kids;
them up.
it was meant for adults, which is why you could actually show them advertising cigarettes because
And,
you know.
yeah, and like Angron said, it became more family friendly, and that's why we have the Fruity Pebbles and
Yeah,
Choco.
exactly. And
No,
again,
there are some instances
kinda
where they
like-
definitely go a little edgy, like with the Karate Kid esque
Yeah.
commercial.
Yep, and stuff like that. But it's interesting that and again, we'll talk more about this in depth on our Flintstones episode, which is coming in the future. But just to give a little thing, it's interesting that it kind of happened to The Simpsons, but not really. Like, I think that over time, The Simpsons became a little more family friendly, but really not much. You know, they didn't
Huh.
go like with the perception of people, like with Flintstones. People still consider Simpsons to be more of a adult show or family show rather than just strictly for children.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So
Yeah,
that's
sorry
gonna
about that. Sorry about that little rambling there.
It's
Yeah,
fine,
all
it's fine.
good.
Yeah. Jabba do for me.
So, Jordan, what would be your first experience with dinosaurs?
Well, you guys can laugh at me if you want, but probably at a young age, I don't remember a lot of I remember the dinosaur being around my time, but you can laugh at me. I probably would start with Barney because at
Yep.
that
Yeah,
time,
yes.
Oh yeah, Barney.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of started with Barney as well. Not too much,
Yeah.
but yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I may have to change my answer now. Definitely Barney.
Okay, me
I
too.
mean, it was
maybe.
back
Yep,
at
I
that
understand.
time before the dinosaur movie itself. It came out in 2008. Barney has been around for so long, and then follow up, people like, oh, let's take the idea of a talking dinosaur in the macaroni commercials. Barney has been around for so long that they had a theme park in Universal Studios. Now it's gone. Rest in peace for that. I didn't care for that growing up when I went there. But then it also came along with the Land Before Time. That is kind of mostly for me. I mean, again, I am from the 90s.
Oh, I'm from
And
the 90s too. Late 90s, but I'm the 90s as well.
Oh yeah, same here.
yeah, so I would pick Barney as my first top, but my second one would have to be The Land Before Time because that is the most beautiful thing to me to see that. And for one, I grew up again because through Barney, I love BJ because he was a Triceratops, and since then, Land Before Time, Sarah, who was a badass Triceratops, is my girl. I picked Triceratops, so I have two, which is Barney and The Land Before Time.
Nice.
So again, you guys can laugh at me or judge me from anything else. Even people who are listening to the podcast, you can say, "Oh, she grew up watching Barney." You know what? Go ahead. I don't care. He taught a whole lot of things for us, for kids. Like, be who you are. Don't change who you are. Except, you learn when you grow up and you have a talking purple dinosaur, and that's it.
I think most
yeah.
kids our age end up growing up with him.
Exactly. And the crazy thing too was not just the show itself, but also like the insane backlash it got. There was a documentary that came out, I think, last year or the year before, that was about just the backlash that the show got, and it got insane to the point of like absolute insanity. Like people were threatening like the voice actor and like the show's creator and stuff, and it got nuts. It got nuts. It's like over a stupid show for like little children. You're gonna go and do that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're a real macho man there, buddy. Real macho.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, what the
Barney
fuck?
himself had so many design changes. Like the first,
It's harmless. Let's just say it's harmless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it may look bad, but it's not that bad, people.
Yeah, I mean, we even seen a funny little ripoff from The Mask. There was a villain named Shark who dressed up as a giant orange talking dinosaur that literally scared a child because, he didn't like Barnaby the dinosaur, but then we have Barney. It's a ripoff. We've seen that in The Mask. It's funny and dorky. It's a ripoff. But you know what? It's back in that time and day. You can't do anything about it if they didn't like it. Well, you know what? That's back then. This is now. We don't care back then.
Yeah, dang. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's what happens, but yeah.
Unfortunately,
Things like that do happen. Yes.
Unfortunately, but that's what happens. So, Evie, what would you say is was your first encounter with dinosaurs and why?
I don't remember, but I was one of those autistic people who had a dinosaur fixation in their early years.
It's all good.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, there's like probably a fossil Pokemon thing that you can probably think of.
Lord Helix.
A couple of
Lord
fossils.
Helix. Yeah.
Oh,
Aurorus is my favorite fossil.
Yeah, so there's a couple of fossils.
Yoshi's a dinosaur.
Yeah, Yoshi's a dinosaur. And yeah, there's one dinosaur that in the Pokemon world resembled a dinosaur. No, two. There's two that resembled a dinosaur. The T-Rex one, I can remember what it's called. It's from the Sun and Moon. Yeah, the Sun and Moon one. That's literally a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And there's the ice one that looks like a Brachiosaurus or a Titansaurus.
Yeah, it's
I think it's a Mogosaurus.
Yeah, one of those.
But it's funny. Like, there's no way my dinosaur fixation could have come from fossil Pokemon because the fossil Pokemon didn't become dinosaurs until Gen 4.
Yeah, that's true.
You got a toy and thought they were cool, and yep.
Yeah.
I mean, Japan has a museum event they have in Japan. They have a Pokemon museum.
God, I want to go there someday. It looks so
I want to go.
cool.
I want to go there
I want
too.
to badly, actually.
Yeah, really cool. It absolutely looks great.
I know I grew up with the anime, but like I learned to actually enjoy the Pokemon series in general, especially in games.
Hell yeah.
But let's get back to the topic on the dinosaur we have now.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Continue. Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really know like where it could have possibly come from.
It's all good.
Sometimes we just don't know, especially
Especially with something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
It kind of was an interesting question of the week this week, but
Mhm.
definitely was a unique one. Yep. So now it is time for the Dragoness Scale of the episode, where we rank the character, of course. And how we're going to do it this week is we're not only going to rank Mrs. Pterodon, but we're also going to be ranking Penelope. I would have done like a Mrs. Conductor, but as Angron said earlier, that there's also another chance of her to be on in a later episode. So we'll definitely get to that when we get to that. Now, for Mrs. Pterodon, I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10 because design's great, characterization is great, voice is perfect, and for what they do with her, with the actual give her little character moments like her anger at Mr. Conductor over talking about the earthquakes and stuff like that. It's not just like, oh, she's just mom. They actually gave her more personality than that. And that's always good. And this show beat Bluey to the punch by doing that for this kind of kid show. So give me credit for that too. And like I said, I'm giving her 8 out of 10. I would give her a little higher, but she wasn't really the focus of these episodes or indeed any episode. Granted, it still is really, really high because I think that, again, she's a really great character. As for Penelope, that's going to be a little more interesting because for that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Penelope, just judging by just the single standalone episode appearance herself, not counting the section with the paleontologist, haha. I'm going to give her a 6 out of 10. I really would want to give her higher. I just feel like it's kind of a disappointment, really, that she doesn't get as much focus as she should. Like, the entire point of the episode is, let's go back in time and meet a Protoceratops, and they meet one for all of, maybe a minute and a half of an 11-minute runtime. It's like they could have cut down the plate tectonic explanation by maybe 30 seconds to give Penelope just a little bit more screen time. The voice is great. The design is great. I'm not knocking it for that, but I think what it is it's kind of underused. Even just judging it by an 11-minute appearance, I just feel like the amount of time she appears relative to it, it just doesn't really click for me, unfortunately. But despite that, I still enjoy the character. They still did a good job with it, with explaining, what kind of a dinosaur she was, and explaining why she wouldn't have horns, but why Tank Triceratops would is another good touch. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give her a 6 out of 10 for Penelope. So, Angron, what would you give Mrs. Pterodon and Penelope?
I'm going to start with Penelope. Yeah, I agree that they didn't give her too much time in this episode, even though, she's, the main character. She's, one of the main focuses for the most part. I mean, granted, the main focus was, the earthquakes, which, it's the title. But I will admit that her being secondary, while fitting, definitely kind of holds her back a bit. Not too much, though, because, she does have some character. She's similar to Tank in many ways. But again, she's the progenitor to dinosaurs like Tank, so it makes sense. So it's for that reason that I'm going to give her a pretty modest 7 out of 10. Mrs. Pteranodon, however, here is my overall view of this person. She's a very experienced, wizened mom, not just as a mother either, but as a person. She is eager to learn. She very much loves loves her family. She's very kind. She's strict when she has to be. She absolutely is one of those characters that definitely makes top 10 best moms, period, in media. So it's for that reason I'm going to give her a very high 9 out of 10. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, dang.
Okay, this is interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, a 9 out of 10 for Mrs. Pterodon. That's a really good score right there.
Yep, Mrs. Pteranodon, yeah.
Yep, thank you. So, Stryker, what would you give both Mrs. Pterodon and Penelope?
Honestly, this is a tough one because I did like both characters. I really loved both the characters' designs. It's just, because I think I'll give Penelope. We're doing Penelope too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Penelope. Don't worry.
All right. So I'm thinking about giving Penelope 6 out of 10 because she needs more screen time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same here.
But like, I think I will also give Mrs. Tyrannodon. I think I forgot which one Mrs. Tyrannodon was.
Mrs. Pteranodon's the adult female
She's the
pteranodon.
adult
She's green.
female. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
The mother.
okay. Yeah, I'm
all
giving
good.
her a 9 out of 10 because I love characters like her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I feel that.
Yep, that's a good one right there. So, Math, what would you give the characters, both Mrs. Pteranodon and Penelope Protoceratops?
So for both of these, really like the designs. The way that this show looks in stills doesn't look very good, but when you see it in motion, something about it just works that I can't quite describe. It's simplistic in its 3D animation, but they've stylized it enough that it actually makes the characters look really good when they move and talk. So really like the designs there. That and the fact that they're, relatively speaking for the day, accurate to what we thought the dinosaurs looked like back then. So props for
Indeed.
that.
I can't help but love the fact that we used to think that dinosaurs looked like reptiles, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some similarities, absolutely, but
Well,
yeah, I feel that.
I'm just gonna say, like, not all of them may have been birds.
Yeah. But it's not like in like say movies like Journey to the Center of the Earth where they depict dinosaurs and it's just giant chameleons with like head fronds. It's like, come on.
Yeah, no.
Or like
sorry for interrupting.
No, that's
Math.
okay. That's
I
okay.
just wanted to...
Go ahead. Sorry. It's all right. Yeah, Math, continue. Sorry about that.
So yeah, Penelope herself, I give a 7. My biggest complaint is I wish that she had more screen time. It was just way too little. Really like the voice for her. Really like the personality that they gave her. It was just a really nice character, just way too short of a character. Not intending for the small joke with her.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pteranodon, however, she gets plenty of screen time. She's effectively one of the main characters, and even in just this single episode, I love the amount of personality that they showed with her. She is a very kind, caring, loving mother, and yet she knows how to be stern or how to put in some authority when she needs to.
Do not question my authority.
You respect my authority.
Yeah, exactly.
It's done through just small expressions or minimal dialogue, but you can tell so much of the character through that. And that's what I like about the way that Bartlett does characters. You can get everything about a character from just one episode featuring.
Yeah,
he is
absolutely.
great at that. Because of how much personality you got from her and just the way that she is done so well, and she fits that nice, sweet, motherly character that I just really like. She is a 10 for me.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Man, I feel that.
Wow.
Nice. That is cool.
I definitely understand why. I don't know if I give her a 10 out of 10, but I 100% see your reasoning for that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That definitely makes sense. So, Shark, what would you give both Mrs. Pteranodon and Penelope Protoceratops?
Well, for Penelope, what everyone has been saying is that, well, she needed more screen time and more to do because she's kind of just there for exposition and it's there for like a minute. So there's not much to say about her other than that. So I'm going to be a little bit harsher with a 5 out of 10 for her.
Indeed.
But as for Mrs. I can't pronounce it. As for the mom, Pterodactyl, no, she is a great character. Everything you guys have said applies to what I think about her. Her lot of personality. She's not just the token mom, the kind lady. The design is fine for the most part, but I will get to it when I get to it.
Okay.
And yeah, like, since she's a main character, I assume she gets a lot more to do, even if she doesn't get an episode of her own. But for what I saw, there's a lot of good things for her. But there's just one little detail in his design that, at least for me, was a little, how do I put it? Unsettling.
Off-putting. Yep.
Yeah, and to quote the Flying Dutchman, "Stop staring at me with the big old eyes."
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can kind of understand that. I mean, this is basically CG Muppet, so
And,
Yeah.
yeah, her eyes can be a little too big for comfort, and
yeah.
because of the type of animation the show has, she sometimes has this 1,000 yard stare in some shots that just looks like, are you okay, lady?
You good, lady? You need to go sit down. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. I don't fully agree, but I feel that.
Yeah, but like, she's into your soul, and
Yeah.
but yeah, it's only that detail, honestly, that holds her back from a perfect score. Because if it wasn't for that, because of that, she gets a 9 out of 10 from me.
Yeah,
Still all good.
9 out of 10 over here as well.
Yep. I definitely see a reason. Yeah, the eyes can look a little weird. I think what it is the limitations of CG. It still is inherent in some shots, but granted, it's still not terrible. But I can definitely see where it comes from. So
yeah, as a pterodactyl, she has like a flat, small head, but then she also has the big old
the
eyes.
cartoon,
So.
yeah. I get where you're coming from.
Turn at me with them big old eyes.
Classic. So, Jordan, what would you give for both Penelope Protoceratops and Mrs. Pteranodon?
I didn't have time to watch the episode because when I see Dino Trains, my level of like, okay, it's too kiddie-ish, but it's cute. But I can't watch it. I have, my life to watch everything else. But I've seen clips. I love Mrs. Pteranodon. She's like the superstar of a mom. When I hear the song, like, oh, she finds another egg in her nest and they hatch and it's a T-Rex. She doesn't literally like get rid of this poor little creature. She adopts him and it's like, oh, that's what mom should be in this world. They should, take what they get from something that needs, love and attention. She gets
Absolutely.
a super
Yeah.
10
I feel
in
that.
my book for being a awesome mom for raising this little T-Rex as her son. The new character Penelope, again, I didn't have time to watch the show, but if I know my Triceratops logics, I would probably give her a solid 7. Again, I didn't watch the episode, so I'm gonna give her a 7 because her whole life is different. She's not like a normal Triceratops that has 3 horns or no horns. Her whole life is different, so you just accept what you get. And Tank be like, "Oh, you're different." How come you don't? He's asking a lot of good questions, like, "Oh, you don't have horns like I do. Why you not have them?" He's asking good questions, so I'm giving her a 7.
Okay, all good. So 7 for both of them then. Works
Well,
out.
Well, for Mrs. Pteranodon, 10. Straight up 10 for my.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Wow. So she's getting a lot of high scores than I thought. So, Luckyeevee, what would you give both Mrs. Pteranodon and Penelope Protoceratops?
They do have nice designs.
So what would you give them? Sorry.
Yes, 5. They do have nice designs.
Oh, 5 for both of them? Okay, it's all good, Okay, just writing it down in the Dragoness Scale. Okay, that's going to be it for this episode. If you have any questions...
Stryker.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I already said that.
No,
Yeah.
Stryker did say it. Yeah, sorry. He gave them a 9 out of, I believe he gave a 10 out of 10, or 9 out of 10 rather, and he gave Penelope a 7 out of 10. It's all good.
Not bad.
It's all good.
Yeah, all
So,
good.
that's going to be it for this episode. If you have any questions, or if you want to send us what you would name a dinosaur species if you discovered one, you can email us at fiorydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/fiorydiscourse, and subscribe to us on YouTube, and check out the playlist at youtube.com/Ludmillanon. Next week, we'll be discussing the 2016 Pixar movie, The Good Dinosaur, to conclude our second ever Jurassic July. Good dinosaur, more like bad dinosaur, roasted. But seriously, that'll definitely be an interesting experience to watch it. If nothing else, it'll make for a good episode.
Yep.
Indeed, yeah.
So that'll be it for this week. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until then, take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Later, y'all.
Adios. Peace out.
Bye.
Adios. See you all next week.